Lord of the Mysteries. Chapter 1163. Approaching. Above the gray fog, the crimson star representing the star also burgeoned and contracted. The rippling light gradually overlapped with the other ripples created by the other three crimson stars, turning into a tidal wave that surged through the entire mysterious space, causing the space to vibrate slightly. After describing the matter related to Klein, Leonard ended his prayers and waited for Mr. Fool to respond. However, he still didn't receive any feedback after nearly 15 minutes. Mr. Fool has always been very responsive. Leonard couldn't help but mutter. After a few seconds of silence, Pallas Zorost reminded with a slightly aged voice. "Recall what the Fool said recently?" Leonard thought carefully and slowly said, "In the middle of the week, he reminded us not to head into the woods in the northwestern outskirts of Backland. Yes, he seemed to hint that the gathering might not be held as planned, as expected." Pallas Zorost let out a long sigh and said, "The Fool had predicted Amon's appearance to a certain extent. They might be fighting in different domains now. One of them wishes to hold on to Sapphira Castle, while the other wishes to become the new owner of Sapphira Castle. Your former colleague has unfortunately been embroiled in this matter. Mr. Fool had expected this. Is this a trap he laid for Amon?" Leonard's green eyes lit up as he blurted out. Pallas spent a significant amount of time thinking as he spoke much slower. "Perhaps that's the case. Perhaps it's because Amon exploited the trap and took the initiative. Don't underestimate a blasphemer, a powerful king of angels." According to what Leonard knew, Mr. Fool was either the owner of the Sapphira Castle who was slowly recovering, corresponding to some unknown deity in history, or he was the embodiment of Sphirot. Currently, he was unable to control his authority and strength very well, something that could be fixed with a further qualitative change. And regardless of the possibilities, Mr. Fool was still unable to reach the level of a true deity. He was likely on the same level as the King of Angels. Under such circumstances, it was rather normal that Mr. Fool and the terrifying blasphemer would undergo an intense battle. After all, that person was one of them, one of the strongest hidden existences beneath the deities. He was even more powerful than the hidden sage that was usually categorized as an evil god. Even deities were somewhat apprehensive towards him. Leonard couldn't help but tense up. He asked in a low voice worriedly, "Old man, do you have any way to provide any help? Isn't Amon your greatest enemy?" Such help might be limited, but it should be able to pull Klein out of the maelstrom. Upon hearing that, Pallas Zorost laughed and said with an obvious self-deprecating tone, "Aren't you expecting too much from me? Indeed, if Amon obtains Sapphira Castle, I'll definitely die at his hands. I might not be able to survive this winter. And if Sapphira Castle is left with the Fool, I might have a chance of surviving in the future. But would an old man like me, who has just recovered to Sequence 2, have the ability to interfere with a battle at this level? Even if I were to use the yesterday once more charms, what can I do in the short time span of 2 to 3 seconds? Yes. At the critical moment, I might be able to help the Fool warp the situation, but I don't even know where they are fighting. How can I seize the opportunity?" Leonard fell silent after hearing Old Man's long answer. He immediately bowed his head and raised his hands to press them against the sides of his head. He muttered to himself, "Don't tell me that I can only watch helplessly." Pallas sighed and said, "Be patient. All we can do now is be patient. The Fool and Evernight, and some other deities and kings of angels seem to have some tacit understanding with each other. They might even be cooperating with one another. They will not allow Amon to take away Sapphira Castle. Wait patiently. Perhaps it won't take long for a window of opportunity to appear." Leonard straightened his body and leaned back. He took a deep breath and exhaled. "I understand." The Blue Avenger, which had been ordered by the Church of the Lord of Storms to attack the port and Phasation merchant ships near the waters of Sonia Island, was hiding somewhere outside the safe sea route. Alger Wilson stood behind the window of the captain's cabin, using his extremely distant vision to stare at the long coastline. To this, newly advanced Ocean Songster's point of view, many captains who received similar missions were the cream of the crop of the mid-sequence Beyonders. Their joint operation would definitely be able to effectively harm the traffic flow of Phasation waters. This also meant that an attack from Phasac would be reasonably fierce, with a high chance of a Sequence 4 demigod leading the attack. Of course, one couldn't eliminate the possibility of a Sequence 3 War Bishop or Silver Knight appearing. This was a dangerous development for Alger. He didn't wish to put himself in such danger. At the same time, his crew, colleagues, and partners would monitor each other, preventing anyone from deserting. If Alger were to skive and walk on the edge of danger, it wouldn't take long for him to consider killing most of the crew members and become a true pirate, or lose the Blue Avenger and return to Paso Island for an internal probe. After this operation ends, the captains who could still survive wouldn't exceed a third. Alger calmly analyzed the situation and quickly came up with a plan to avoid danger. That was to participate in the operation, but not take center stage. Alger planned on using a surprise attack on the port, while his brethren frenetically attacked the Phasation merchant and supply ships. This would bring the people on board his ship onto Sonia Island, allowing them to lay an ambush in a primeval forest. Occasionally, he would cause some minor disturbances to the port which were easily managed. This way, the Phasac demigods would definitely cast their gazes at the sea, and not towards him. At the same time, in the eyes of the crew, he would be a role model who was willing to take great risks to enter the enemy's borders. After thinking through all the details, Alger immediately gathered the crew and repeated his plans. Finally, he emphasized, "This will be very dangerous. Trust me, it's very, very dangerous. We won't be able to advance and retreat like we can at sea. We might be surrounded by enemies at any time, but such an attack will definitely exceed the expectations of the Phasacians, and it will give us the outcome we want. Are you willing to remain on the ship as cowards, or do you want to follow me into battle as a hero to show your devotion to the Lord?" The crew members felt their blood boiling as they rashly said, F***CK the Phasacians. Very good. Alger felt relieved as he struck his right fist on his left breast. May the storm be with us. May the storm be with us. The sailors saluted and shouted. After making the necessary arrangements, Alger believed that he needed to borrow the unshadowed crucifix as soon as possible so as to purge the excess Ocean Songster's Beyonder characteristic. Although he had exaggerated the danger of landing on the island, there was still a certain level of danger involved. Therefore, he wanted to quickly recover to his optimal condition. And he had long understood Mr. Fool's earlier hint. He felt that tonight or tomorrow morning, Mr. Fool would officially inform them that the gathering was to be cancelled. Of course, there were some ideas in the deepest depths of Alger's heart. He suspected that every time Mr. Fool cancelled the Tarot Club, something had happened to him. He wanted to use this prayer to test if this mighty existence was still normal. No, I can't. Thou shalt not test God. This isn't a test. Mr. Fool didn't hint that I can't pray to him recently. Besides, borrowing the unshadowed crucifix is something I really need to do within the next few days. Alger paced back and forth, unable to make a decision. At this moment, he heard the sound of waves crashing. Through the additional type of vision provided by the ghost ship, he saw the water part as a huge fish-type creature appeared. The strange-looking giant fish opened its mouth and spat out a small metal ball that landed on the deck. Alger nodded and expressed his gratitude with his singing. This was a sea creature that the Church of the Lord of Storms had tamed. In this operation, it and its companions were the messengers between the various ships and the islands. Upon receiving his gratitude, the giant fish-like creature trembled. With a flick of its tail, it headed deep into the sea and swam into the distance. Alger looked at it silently for 2 seconds before summoning a gust of wind to bring the metal ball into the captain's cabin. He twisted open the metal ball and took out the piece of paper inside. Alger's eyes froze from a mere glance at it. George III has been assassinated. Alger repeated the content with a heavy expression before recalling the World Gairman Sparrow's reminder and Mr. Fool's hints. This time, he no longer hesitated. He locked the room and softly muttered the honorific name. The fool that doesn't belong to this era. These prayers are almost becoming a choral symphony. Mr. Hangman wants to borrow the unshadowed crucifix from little son? Leonard. Yes. These voices are stacked over one another, undulating in pitch and volume. It's making the surroundings tremble. Klein rubbed his temples, having a feeling that he had been struck by lightning from every direction. At this moment, he followed Amon deeper into the desolate moors and saw the grayish-yellow fog that blanketed the area. There were a few ravines, and in the deep, dark depths, there were plenty of things roaming. Compared to the quiet, lurking monsters from before, the ones here were rather special. The pointy-hatted Amon raised his hand to nudge his monocle and pointed ahead with a smile. Another half a day and we should be reaching our final destination. Half a day? It hasn't been a day yet. Didn't you say 3 days? Klein's pupils seemingly dilated. Amon smiled and said, I said not more than 3 days. 1 day is not more than 3 days, too. Upon saying that, the King of Angels paused and asked with piqued interest, Did I hamper your arrangements? Are you feeling more despair? Klein didn't answer as he suddenly reached out his hand and grabbed into the void beside him.